got equal parts Regency romance and historical Western romance for you today. The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah McLean, Scandal and Scoundrel Book 1. Let's just all pause and accept that this is the most historical romancy title ever. How embarrassing, and let's move on. This is a recent release of Sarah McLean's. I think it came out around last Christmas. After Sophie publicly sets down her cheating brother-in-law, she tries to escape the ensuing scandal by stowing away on this lord's carriage. His name, confusingly, is King, but he's not a king, he's a lord. Anyway, the whole stowing away thing makes absolutely no logical sense, nor did his reaction to it, and the twist at the end was super cliche. Overall, this whole thing could have used a smidge more originality, but what the heck, it was still likable even for that. So, not bad. By the way, the next book in the series is called A Scot in the Dark. Get it? Like a shot in the dark, but it's a Scot, and in the dark is an innuendo. I'm sure the Avon employee who thought of that one is still patting themselves on the back to this day. Anyway, Scot in the Dark just came out, and I'm patiently waiting on hold for it at the library. I think I'm like number 35 on the holds list, so this could take a while. So, as you might know, I'm a big Courtney Milan fan, humongous. So I went back to read the prequel novella for the Carhartt series, There's a Wicked Gift, and I'm very disturbed. At first I was like, this was written early in her career, right? No, 2 years ago. The premise that is set up in the beginning is that he thinks he's blackmailed her into having sex with him. Turns out that blackmail was not the reason she did it, but still he thought that. And yeah, he feels bad about it, but she spends most of the book convincing him that he really shouldn't. But no, he really should, because that is horrible. So yeah, this book was a big fat no for me. I am kinda in love with Joe Goodman. Historical Western romance can be really hard to get right for me, and even Joe Goodman doesn't always hit it out of the park, but she does enough of the time that I'm hopelessly in love with her. So I went on to the second McKenna Brothers book with The Devil You Know. Israel McKenna is rescued by a precocious 10-year-old after he's been drugged behind a horse and left for dead. What he expected even less was that 10-year-old's determined older sister who runs the ranch he's now recovering on. Sometimes Joe Goodman just gets it right for me. I usually find Old West romance problematic in terms of plot and characterization, but Joe Goodman has the ability to cut through all the tropes and stereotypes and create relatable characters and interesting plots. This one was super good. Reveling in my adoration of Joe Goodman, I went on to read Kissing Comfort. When her friend Brom, who she is secretly madly in love with, pulls Comfort Kennedy into a sham engagement, she doesn't know what to think. His serious brother, who is secretly in love with her, however, wants her to think a bit more about him. Okay, so I love Joe Goodman and I fell in love with the characters in this book, but the plot was, well, traumatizing at parts, and the characters psychologically bounce back a little too easily in my opinion. I still really liked it, but I didn't love it as much as the great characterization would have otherwise warranted. So, not only does Joe Goodman write historical Western romance, she does also write Regency. I hadn't picked up any of those yet because there are plenty of writers who write Regency and very few who write historical Westerns that I like. But I ran out of Joe Goodman's historical Westerns, so I decided to dip my toe into her Regency selections. I went with A Season to Be Sinful. I was uncertain going in because, well, the premise. There's this whole subgenre of Regency where an English lord takes a female pickpocket and makes a lady out of her. It's usually a badly done version of My Fair Lady, so anyway, I was ready to be less than impressed with this one. But, you know, she surprised me. The characters were really well written, which they always are with Joe Goodman. Also, and this is a bit of a spoiler, so be warned. So I have this issue with the purity obsession, and especially in Regency romance. The woman is always a virgin, but the guy has slept with all these women and probably has some sort of disease, God knows. Anyway, often the author will write a backstory to elicit sympathy where the woman is almost compromised. I say almost because it never actually happens. Often due to Deus ex machina? How do you even say that? Deus ex machina? Deus ex machina? I don't know. Anyway, it's always incredibly unlikely. It's just frustrating because it perpetuates this idea that if she had been compromised, she would no longer be worthy to be a romance heroine, which I think is a sad disservice to girls everywhere. Anyway, that said, Joe Goodman does not do that. I really appreciate how she wrote the heroine in this book, and then also how she wrote the hero's reaction to the whole situation. This was very well done. I have kind of taken a break from Amanda Quick lately, even though she was the first historical romance writer I ever read. So I thought it was high time to circle back around to her. So I picked up Reckless. As is typical of Amanda Quick, we have a headstrong heroine, but in this case, she's also helplessly naive, which drove me insane. She's essentially looking for a white knight and decides this guy Gabriel, who once did something years ago that she thought very chivalrous, but her father disagreed and had him banished for it. Anyway, she decides that he's gonna help her out by being her white knight. Kill me now. This was the early 90s, not my favorite period in romance writing, so meh. Okay, those are the books. Any historical romance books to recommend to me, and what is your favorite and least favorite decade of romance writing?